disgusting family, awesome offspring. I would like to hold a eulogy today for the death of New Super Mario Brothers. All right, that's over. Yeah. I just kind of want to talk about the history of like how New Super Mario Brothers just fell from grace, how it's kind of like like what happened here? So we didn't have like a new 2D Mario game for like over a decade at this point in 2006. Like the last game that we got was like Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy. And then after that, anything we got was pretty much like a spin-off, you know? Like, oh, it kind of had the vibe of a Mario game. It was in the Mario universe, but it wasn't like an actual 2D Mario game. We're kind of in this weird era where it felt like 3D just completely took over 2D. 3D was the full evolution of 2D, and it took a while for a lot of people to realize, like, no, that's not the case. 3D is just a completely different type of game, while 2D still has its place. And I feel like the original New Super Mario Brothers did a lot to really make people realize that. And there was that hankering for a 2D Mario game. I mean, on the Game Boy Advance, all we pretty much got were the Mario Advance games, which is what I played back in the day. I don't know if Nintendo intentionally decided to just not do a 2D Mario on the GBA, and they just wanted to just re-release all of them instead. But I think it worked out because, hey, it saved resources on their end. And also, for kids like me, we got our Mario history lesson without realizing we were being taught stupid-ass history. Because those Mario games on the Game Boy Advance, they just felt like genuinely just games, you know? You didn't really consider them to be, oh, this is an old Super Nintendo game, who cares? Like, no, like, they just, those were Mario games. You were playing Mario on your Game Boy. So when we move over to the Nintendo DS, and we got New Super Mario Brothers, like, this was considered like a revolution at the time. It was crazy. Like, this got such high review scores. People consider this to be one of the greatest platformers of all time. Something that can stand toe-to-toe with the all-time greats on Super Nintendo and NES. And, you know, like, New Super Mario Brothers on the DS is a fantastic game. And if it just stopped at that, then yeah, I might agree with those people. But the fact that we got like 5 more after that, like, I think that definitely muddied its legacy quite a bit. Because the original DS game was incredible. A lot of the stuff that people are, like, commending Super Mario Bros. Wonder for doing, a lot of the weirdness of that game, like, you can look back at New Super Mario Bros. DS and, yeah, this is obviously better. But the original DS game was doing a lot of that wackiness back then. Just the fact that the pipes were so, like, overly animated in this game. You got all these different new enemies, and this was the introduction of a lot of Mario's 3D moveset in 2D. And then in addition, you had like a competitive multiplayer mode before New Super Mario Bros. Wii, when multiplayer in that game was considered to be like its defining feature. Of course, it makes sense, you know, it's on a home console and you could play the entire game in multiplayer, but still, the original DS game, I think, does deserve a lot more respect. I'm not sure if it can truly stand toe-to-toe with the originals, but if you put a gun to my head, I could make a fairly compelling argument as to why it should stand toe-to-toe with those games. Because it's very easy, too easy in fact, to talk about how influential like Mario 1, Mario 3, Mario World were to the gaming industry. But I would argue that New Super Mario Bros. Was just as influential. Maybe not as much, but it was very influential. It really brought back 2D platformers. It showed that 2D platformers still had a humongous audience in today's gaming sphere. It helped to initiate the giant retro boom we experienced in the 7th generation, where all these classic franchises were coming back. And it defined what modern Mario would be like for nearly the next 20 years. That game. New Super Mario Brothers was like a ginormous game. I remember like pretty much anybody that owned a DS had New Super Mario Brothers. It was such a no-brainer to own. It was a phenomenon. And then we got New Super Mario Brothers Wii just 3 years later. And that was originally kind of like labeled as like New Super Mario Brothers for Wii. So I think like this kind of started Nintendo's confusion era, where everybody was kind of confused as to what the hell they were doing. Because like at E3 2009, they said, it's New Super Mario Brothers for Wii. And it's like, what does that mean? Is this just New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii? Or is this a New Super Mario Brothers on Wii. Well, it was a brand new game, and this was once again a huge phenomenon. Like, everybody with a Wii owned this game. Yeah, like, looking at it compared to the DS original, my God, this game honestly is like a huge downgrade. Like, I'm looking at the level designs, all the stuff you can do in the game, and it's just like, it's not the same, man. It's so much more sterile, so much more boring. I know I made the joke that the original New Super Mario Bros. Set the standard for Mario games in the future, but I think it was New Super Mario Bros. Wii that truly set that in motion, because New Super Mario Bros. Still had that flavor, still had that funk. New Super Mario Bros. Wii just kind of sanitized the hell out of all of that. And it's still a good game, still a really fun game. But I think focusing on multiplayer made that game feel very empty in single player. The levels were so big and there was all this room in them with nothing for you to do. They're still well designed, but definitely just not as interesting as the DS game. I think they had to simplify a lot of the gimmicks for multiplayer. They had to make the levels more barren for multiplayer. And they had to make like a, higher ceiling overall because of the propeller suit in the game. So overall, just everything worked together to make that game just feel a lot more barren and just not as good. And then just 2 years after the Wii game, we got a tech demo revealed for the Wii U. When that was initially revealed, New Super Mario Bros. Me, who gives a shit? That was like the lamest damn thing, and I think it definitely contributed to the Wii U's failure, is the fact that the first game they showed for the thing was fucking New Super Mario Brothers. Yes, everybody loved New Super Mario Brothers at the time, but like, you did a handheld version and a console version, and I think Nintendo was just kind of expecting like they could just do the same thing again and again and again, and people would be excited. But the excitement kind of peaked with New Super Mario Brothers Wii, so then doing New Super Mario Brothers Me, and being able to play as your Mii in the game, and that's kind of the big thing about it. What the hell is wrong with you? But that wasn't the big thing, because a year later, we got New Super Mario Bros. U, alongside New Super Mario Bros. 2. So 2 goddamn New Super Mario Bros. Games in the same year, and guess what? They were both so damn similar to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. New Super Mario Bros. 2 was pretty much like mixing the original New Super Mario Bros. With New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and then New Super Mario Bros. U was pretty much just New Super Mario Bros. Wii again. And hey, I ate those games up at the time, but even then I understood, like, I'm like, man, like there's something missing from these experiences. These really just feel like junk food games, where you just pick them up, you enjoy playing through them, but then you put them down and nothing makes you think, nothing makes you go like, wow, that level or anything like that. And that's a big problem for Mario games. Mario's supposed to be like the grand standard, something everybody can look at and be like, that is what a video game should be. And he's pumping out garbage like this. It's completely playable garbage. It's, in fact, pretty good garbage. It's like you're dumpster diving and you found something that's halfway decent, but it's like, come the hell on, man. New Super Mario Bros. U is incredibly boring. As a launch setup for the Wii U, it did the job because like it gave you something to use your Wii U for, and it was a good game. But man, and then it got DLC, you got New Super Luigi U a year later. And then a year after that, we got Super Mario Maker announced, where New Super Mario Bros. U was a theme for the game. And then surrounding all of this, all of the Mario spin-offs at the time, all Mario merchandise, everything about the Mario franchise, pretty much completely revolved around what New Super Mario Brothers looked like. Mario went through this completely sterile era where everything pretty much only had to do with New Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario 3D World was the Wii U's big 3D Mario game, and that was very similar to like New Super Mario Brothers in terms of style. It had more style, it had more flavor to it, but at the end of the day, it felt like a New Super Mario Brothers game kind of taken to 11, you know? And then all the sports games, all the spin-offs. Back during the GameCube era, many of the sports games, and even Mario Kart, all of that, they would take from the more recent Mario games, like Mario Kart Double Dash, like the award ceremony is in Isle Delfino. Hell, the spin-offs would take from the spin-offs, like Mario Party 5 had like the Star Spirits from Paper Mario. But that all came to a stop during this era, and New Super Mario Bros. Oversaturated the franchise and Nintendo's lineup everything. And even games where it appeared in, like, you know, New Super Luigi U is much better than New Super Mario Brothers U. Super Mario Maker is way better. It's Super Mario Maker. It's fantastic. And of course, New Super Mario Brothers U isn't the only style in that game. You know, I'm just kind of doing a timeline of like, yep, we pretty much saw new Super Mario Brothers every year because a year later, Super Mario Maker released, and then a year after that, we got Super Mario Run, which graphically was entirely based off of New Super Mario Brothers U. But then just a few years later, it came back. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe for Nintendo Switch. When this was rumored, this was like one of the most just stupid ass ideas for a Nintendo Switch port possible. It's one where I think a lot of people question, like, why not just make a new Super Mario Brothers game? Or why not remake all of the new Super Mario Brothers games, compile them in one package? And I agree, but at the end of the day, if you compile all the new Super Mario Brothers games in one package, I think that shows their value is even worse than you initially thought. You're gonna play through New Super Mario Bros. Wii, then New Super Mario Bros. 2, then New Super Mario Bros. U. You are going to realize, holy shit, these games are genuinely all the same. And a New Super Mario All-Stars, I think would probably sell the exact same amount of copies as just porting New Super Mario Bros. U by itself. And I will give them credit. What would I rather want? A brand new Super Mario Bros. Game that's just the same shit, or they just saved a bunch of resources and just port this for people who want a 2D Mario game on Switch. I mean, I can't blame them to do this. I'm not necessarily like upset that they did it now, but man, this is it. This is the worst one. It dare be labeled Deluxe, and they barely added anything. They added a playable character, Toadette, who can transform into Peachette, which just raises more questions than answers. But it sold so goddamn well. I am baffled Nintendo actually listened to everybody. So in the grand scheme of things, New Super Mario Bros. Took quite a long break. You know, New Super Mario Bros. U was the last fully original 2D Mario game, and that was 2012. And then Super Mario Bros. Wonder released in 2023, like over 10 years of waiting for a brand new original 2D Mario game. And yes, we've gotten stuff like Super Mario Maker and Super Mario Maker 2. And the idea behind those games, you may initially go like, oh, well, I never need a new 2D Mario game. Yeah, you do. I think Mario Maker is fantastic, but you know, you have to find all these damn levels, and there's only so much you can do with a level maker, even though Mario Maker, like, it can go above and beyond in that game. But there's just a distinct difference between a Mario Maker level and a handcrafted Nintendo level not made in a level builder. And even though New Super Mario Bros. U wasn't made in a level builder, it was so damn boring it may as well have been. So to get this, like a decade later, really does show me that Nintendo understands where New Super Mario Bros. Went wrong, how this brand is just fucking boring, and how to really push Mario forward. Like, you gotta do more stuff. So many 2D platformers, even by Nintendo themselves, like, are so much better than this. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, many of the Kirby games, Yoshi's Woolly World. New Super Mario Brothers, I don't think was very indicative of Mario's legacy. It was pretty much just, yep, let's put out a new 2D Mario. That's what that felt like. Super Mario Brothers Wonder does feel like that. I love that it takes the best elements of the new Super Mario games because, you know, don't get me wrong, there are so many commendable elements of the new Super Mario Brothers games, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder retains all of them, but gets rid of all the junk that it's like, no. Outside of the logo, what the hell is this thing? It just confuses me the more I look at it. What is this space here? What is going on there perspective-wise? And it's just the same Super Mario Brothers from New Super Mario Brothers, which is strange because, like, I guess it's for branding purposes. It's to make people understand that, like, hey, this is a 2D Mario game. But for how stylistically different Mario Wonder is, you know, I'd almost expect, like, a completely different styled Super Mario Brothers logo, but it's whatever. When that's like the worst thing I have to say about the game, they did a pretty good job here. Will I miss New Super Mario Brothers? Oh man, that's a tough question. Let me get back to you on that one. But in the meantime, it's pretty crazy that we kind of had a cycle with 2D Mario once again, where, you know, we started with like non-stop 2D Mario games back in the 80s and 90s. And then it all just kind of stopped for a decade. And then we got New Super Mario Brothers for like nearly a decade. And then it all just kind of stopped. And like, yeah, there was always stuff to play, but it was always kind of just, you know, regurgitating the same old stuff again. You know, much like how we got the Mario Advance games, we would get New Super Mario Brothers over and over and over again via New Super Luigi U, Mario Maker, Mario Run. And then we have a reinvention of 2D Mario, much like how New Super Mario Brothers was back on the DS. It's really funny how history repeats itself that way. But I'm very happy with how things have turned out. And, you know, I'm fond of New Super Mario Brothers in the sense of, like, you're fond of, like some fucking wart that was on your finger for a while. You're like, God, I wish this thing was gone, and then it's gone, and then you're like, wow, like, my finger feels weird without this now. That's a little weird. To answer the original question, no.